Silence. Yeah, if everyone could stand, that would be great. Only if you're able to. Don't feel compelled, Peter. Righto, if we just could have a minute's silence. Thank you, everyone. Pursuant to Council's Code of Meeting Practice Policy, 2 public forum sessions will be held during the council meeting. 1 public forum session will be held following the acknowledgement of the Broken Hill mining history to hear submissions from the public on matters listed for consideration at this meeting and to also hear submissions on general matters. And the other public forum session will be held prior to confidential matters and will consider submissions from the public on matters considered by council at this meeting only. All councillors undertook an oath or an affirmation at the beginning of their term of office and declared to undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the people of Broken Hill local government area and the city of Broken Hill, and that they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment. This council meeting is being live streamed via YouTube and recorded and published via council's website. To those present in the gallery today, by attending or participating in this public meeting, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. The Mayor and/or General Manager have the authority to pause or terminate the stream if comments or debate are considered defamatory, otherwise inappropriate for publishing. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if they engage in unlawful behaviour or commentary. We have 1 apology, Councillor Elaine Gillett. Can we have a mover for those apologies? Moved Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Turley. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We have a leave of absence. Councillor Ashley Byrne submitted a leave of absence application for his meeting and provided the reason, caring responsibilities. Move for a motion to move Councillor Turley, seconded Councillor Chandler. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Call on Councillor Boland to deliver the prayer.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Almighty God, we ask you to invoke your blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement and true welfare of the people of the council area, our state and Australia. Amen.
Councillor Chandler.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet today, the land of the Willikali people. Pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging.
Thank you. Councillor Allgate.
We take time to reflect, remember and honour the over 800 miners that lost their lives and those that were crippled or maimed on the line of load. We thank the brave miners and their wives who were part of the 1919-1920 strike that lasted over 500 days and delivered a 35-hour working week. Mining is our past and our future.
Thank you, Councillor Allgate. First public forum session of 15 minutes will consider submissions from the public regarding matters listed for consideration at this meeting and also on general matters. The public have been advised through notices on council's website to register by 4 p.m. today if they wish to address council during the public forum session. Members of the public who have registered to address council will be given preference, and then if time permits, anyone else present in the public gallery may address council. Speakers are allocated 2 minutes. We have no declared speakers. Does anyone from the gallery, Mr. Cools, Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we've probably seen in the paper recently, they're finally getting on with building the new towers on the transmission line, which is a great thing. And when I read the article, they said there'd be no disruption to the power of Broken Hill. And then in the very last couple of sentences, they said there'd be minimal disruption to the power in Broken Hill, which is understandable because you can't run transmission lines without turning the power off. My question is the council aware, or have the electricity people in Broken Hill finally fixed up the generator out here, which didn't work in the last power outage? Because I recall them telling the Premier when he came over, they gave him all sorts of iffy-diffy excuses. They handled the truth rather carelessly, I thought, that it was going to be fixed and up and running and we would have 2 standby generators working. Now, I was wondering if we have power outages down the line, which we've got to have to run the new transmission lines, are both the generators working, and would they have enough power for all of Broken Hill, including the mines? Because outages cost them millions of dollars.
Yeah, so we have one generator that is working, one of the diesel generators.
One,
There's also backup generators that were first put here during the blackout, but they are currently working on getting the second generator up and running as well.
Mr. Mayor, they've been working on that for as long as I can ever remember. It's about time they got the digit out and got on with the job. And I think the Premier should be informed how slack they've been getting that second generator working, simply because it was on the East Coast to be done in a week.
Yes. So the parliamentary inquiry is also next week. So
Again?
council will be bringing it up. This is about what happened during the blackout. So I do recommend that anyone that is interested in that also put in their submissions to that. I agree with you, totally unacceptable that we didn't have two generators when it
Exactly.
did happen. They have given a commitment that they are fixing it now and they are in the process of fixing it, which is,
They've been doing that for about 3 years.
well, prior to that, they said they were doing it, and let's face it, they probably weren't doing it. Well, we know they weren't doing
Yeah.
it, but they are actually now at least doing that. But I do suggest anyone that is concerned does register for that public inquiry.
Yeah, thank you, because it'd probably be a couple of months before they get the towers up and run the transmission lines. It's a big job. So they've got a bit more time, haven't they? I didn't know if the Premier was aware of, what they told him when it here and what hasn't been done, that's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cools. Any other speakers? No. The minutes for confirmation. Can we have a mover for the minutes?
Move the minutes.
Move councillor Allgate, seconded councillor Jewett. Councillor Allgate, you'd like to speak to those? Any councillors speak to the minutes? No. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Disclosures of interest. Are any councillors have the disclosure in? So councillor Turley.
I do, Mr. Mayor, and it's in item, sorry, I just can't see the item number, 24/25. It's non-pecuniary, as I'm the Vice President of the Australian Local Government Association, and I'll leave the council chamber.
Thanks, councillor Turley. Any other disclosures, councillor Boland?
Thank you, Mayor. I've got one on further reports, item 5, increased funding or further funding for the Perfect Light Film Festival. It's a non-pecuniary interest. I'm a major sponsor of the events from my employment, and I'll leave the chambers.
You were leaving as well, councillor Turley, leaving the chamber? Yeah.
Sorry, I did say.
Yeah,
will
I
leave the
just
council chamber.
didn't put it down, that's all. Worries. We have nil Merrill minutes, nil notices of motion, nil notices of rescission. We do have a late business item that the deputy mayor would like to move for TAFE College. So we'll move that be dealt with at the end of all other business. We'll move to item number 13 is reports from delegates. We have one item. It is a report from Deputy Mayor Hickey, attendance at the Australian Mining Cities Alliance in regional capitals.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. From the 10th to the 12th of February, I went to Canberra, met with the Minerals Council of the Australian Boardroom, where we had 3.5 hours, which each board member did a presentation of their region, their area goals, and their Australian Mining Cities goals. This is a very productive presentation now, all members to understand each other's regions much better. As there's been a change of councils in most regions, we had a lot of new members in that. AMCA then had a strategic meeting to determine our priorities and formulate a presentation plan so that when we're on speaking to the ministers, we're all on the same wavelength talking to the ministers. We then had a meeting with Tanya Constable from the Minerals Council of Australia, and she brought along her 6 senior advisors. This is a very good meeting where we discussed our fringe benefits tax plan for tax-free housing at our regions and remote mining areas, and they gave their opinion and taxation suggestions for us to formulate our submission of the FBT. During the meeting, I requested the Minerals Council recommend to government that magnetite ore be included in the list of critical minerals, which they've agreed to do. That's been submitted. Yeah. The meeting went for approximately 1 hour, and they offered AMCA use of their boardroom and their rooms at any time we were in Canberra. The next meeting was with Opposition Leader Peter Dutton and Senator Susan McDonald. Again, a very productive meeting where we submitted our request for FBT exemption on housing and rentals for AMCA members of the region. Mr. Dutton was very receptive and actually said if we could produce figures and a submission within the next 2 weeks, then he will have the coalition team take a look and report back. We have figures up until the last election, as a proposal was submitted to Treasury at that time. However, it was done by the incoming government. Our operational committee will get these figures up to date and submit it within the 2 weeks, which is a great result and gives us confidence that this will get a good push. AMCA have made it our single priority push, and that's the FBT ruling. Further discussion, Mr. Dutton and Senator McDonald gave us clear understanding that they are very much in favour of mining and resultant industries. I explained our airport runway desperation for an upgrade, and Mr. Dutton questioned me on the figure of 15 million. He said, is that going to get to 20 or 25? Or I said, no, it has been quoted and we will cover any excess, which he was quite pleased with. On Tuesday, a lot of the meetings took place as this was shared between regional cities and AMCA as per below schedule, which I'll put a schedule. There's a lot of meetings. I think we met with 11 ministers during that day, which the general manager had to do a couple while I did others because they overlapped. The first meeting was with Senator Dean Smith. I consider this one to be most productive meeting I've attended over the last 3 years. AMCA put the FBT proposal to the senator who has heard of the proposition, wanted us to give his views and was very impressed we're all in agreement on the same page. He wanted to know who had looked at it and how far it had gone. As I'm the longest surfing board member now, I explained it had actually gone to Treasury some 3 years ago, which is quite impressed and promised to speak to Treasury and get the submission regurgitated and get their opinion. I also explained our airport runway to him. I think I explained to every minister I spoke to, so they all know. AMCA also met with Madeline King's advisors, also Dan Repacholi, MP for Hunter. This meeting was arranged for me in particular to get his slant on the same job, same pay legislation as against the opinion of the Minerals Council. I believe he explained the legislation at length and doesn't believe it could be used unless it was the same company and identical jobs. And ours, James and ours, and that company would have to have the same employment agreement covering all of their employment. However, he did agree we can't be certain until it's tested in court. And that's the only way Bro will know. 8:30 to 9 o'clock at AMCA saw Senator Dean Smith, and I explained our runway, of course. Then we saw Senator Perrin Davey, Shadow Minister for Water and Emergency Management, full delegation, numerous regional cities had drastic water problems. Senator Davey spoke at length about the MDBA and the problems. Then we saw the Honourable Matt Thistlethwaite, Assistant Minister for Immigration, and there's one rep at a time got to speak. I attend this meeting and following contact to me by the hotels in Tibooburra, Milprinka, Packsaddle and Pooncarie, whereby they can't get holiday visa workers as they're not eligible to sign off on the 88-day rural remote workplace package. As Tibooburra, Milford and Packsaddle all come under Broken Hill's postcode of 2880 and Pooncarie under Wentworth's 2648, they are therefore not considered remote and can't get the backpacker workers, which is just absolutely ridiculous. These places are very close to closing as the owners are burnt out and they drastically need these backpackers workers. The system manager was not aware of this and advised that I advised that I will forward a letter exactly explaining the problem to try and find a solution, because it directly affects Broken Hill tourism. But then we had a meeting with the Honourable Catherine King, Minister for Transport and Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development, where only one rep could attend. However, Minister King cut the numbers back. We asked for a special meeting, especially for Broken Hill, to get in to find out why we got knocked back on our last application for funding for the airport. However, we were knocked back and told there was no room for Broken Hill. Very disappointing, as we really want that answered. The Honourable next meeting was the Honourable Dan Tehan, MP, Shadow Minister for Immigration and Citizen. Again, I explained to him about the Packsaddle Tibooburra problem, and the Minister was amazed. And but as he walked out, he said, "Jim, if we're successfully winning government, I promise you I'll fix that problem." So that was pretty encouraging. Then we had Minister King, Madeline King. However, she was called into Parliament. We had her staffers, which I explained the airport, etc. But a little bit different when you haven't got the minister. Parliament was in sitting, and they quite often get a bell. They've got to go. The Officer of Claire O'Neill, MP, Minister for Housing, Minister for Homelessness, Minister for Business, one rep, and the General Manager attended that, as it was in a double time slot. The next was Dan Chester, Shadow Minister for Regional Education. I explained our airport runway desperation and upgrade, and he said, "Yes, Jim, I do understand because Mark Coulton has kept me well informed about it." Previous meetings with regional cities I attended by teams, it is very obvious if you're not at the table, you don't get a hearing or the attention of the ministers. I believe it is a very worthwhile trip, and all ministers are well aware of Broken Hill's future with our new mining operations, future proposed operations, including the Pinnacle Silver Mine. Thank you for the opportunity, Councillor, for allowing me to attend.
Thank you. Could we have a seconder for that? Seconded, Councillor Boland. Any debate?
Just-
Councillor,
Not debate.
Councillor Allgate, then Councillor Turley. Councillor Allgate.
Just wanted to thank the councillor, Vicky. First of all, in gaining access to so many different ministers from all persuasions. And I think these particular visits that the Deputy Mayor has been making over a period of time are starting to pay off. Jim has got that access to different people that do count in the long term. And I was surprised when I seen on Facebook a photograph of Jim and the Leader of the Opposition, a one-on-one meeting. That really is a coup in anybody's thinking. I'd just like to thank the Deputy. He's doing a good job. He's away for a lot of the time. And it's something that I wouldn't like to do, and I probably couldn't do it anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Turley.
Actually, I just want to thank the Deputy Mayor for the comprehensive report. It's really important for us as councillors to understand those issues, not just when we attend the council meeting, but they had the time to reflect on some of those emerging issues and what we can do to lobby in the background as well. So thank you for the report.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. If you could just add to your report, I think we need to write off to the Honourable Minister Catherine King, voicing our concern about the airport and voicing our concern about not giving the opportunity to put that forward. If you'd be happy to put that in there. Also write off to the appropriate ministers, shadow ministers, about backpackers or visas for Tibooburra, etc. We've got most of that. Yep. You're happy to do that. The seconders happy to do that. The other thing that's really important, I think we need to continue to push this, and it's really good that you did push the fringe benefit tax exemption of 100%. That's a game changer for mining communities if that gets up. If we do get that fringe benefit tax exemption of 100%, it will open up Broken Hill. We will get unlimited amount of nurses, doctors, teachers, etc., because they'll come to Broken Hill with the view of buying a house using their pre-tax wage as opposed to their post-tax wage, and will set them up for many, many years and enable them to go back to places like Sydney and buy their houses. I am thankful of, it's not just the coalition that has been supportive of the fringe benefits tax exemption. The Labor government has also been supportive. If we can, with these meetings, have both governments go into the election supporting that proposal, Broken Hill will grow, and so will those other mining communities. Not only will they grow, that it will give them certainty during times of bust. What happens is, we all know what happens when we have a downturn in the mining industry. House prices plummets, banks stop lending money. You go from needing 5% deposit up to needing 20% deposit. People panic, people sell homes, prices crash. If we get this, we'll never see another boom bust period. We'll only ever see boom periods. So I thank the mining related councils as well as the deputy mayor for continuing to bring that up, because it is really important. The other thing that is also of importance is, of course, our airport. If we get that airport, it'll be a game changer for Broken Hill. It won't necessarily bring in bigger planes from commercial operators, but it opens up the opportunity for commercial operators to use those bigger planes, which means that interest in the future, Bonza was one of them, but there will be other airlines that do come into the future that use those, but it opens it up to charters. So thank you and well done. Oh, yeah, but we'll get this moved, and you have all those in favour of the report? Yep, passed unanimously. You have a second verbal?
Yeah, second verbal report from Regional Cities New South Wales, which I attended in Sydney last week. First one was there's 16 regional cities at that meeting, which is great. Meeting with Gino Mandarino from the Department of Planning was going to be the minister, but they couldn't get there, and Gino did it. It's a little bit hard when you've got the staffs and not the boss. But it was still a good meeting. Then we had Minister John Graham from Minister Transport. I asked about why council wasn't successful. We got a whisper in Canberra that if the New South Wales state government hadn't supported our application, then it wouldn't have gone anywhere anyway. And they didn't say it, but they were sort of saying that's what part of the reason might have been. So I've asked John Graham, would he find out if it was supported by the New South Wales government? And because we had round one and then round two, after round one, we expected we were going to get it and didn't. He said that he will definitely check, but then the chair suggested to me that we get the GM to write to Mr. Graham as well and just get him to confirm that he has checked and what the answers was, because they seem to think it'll come back pickledy, and you won't really understand what's
So
said.
just add that to your report now that you'd like to write
Yes.
off asking, mate.
Yeah, if we could do that.
Yeah.
Then we met with Dougal Saunders, which was opposition National Party, which was just a general discussion. Then Daniel Mookie, but Daniel got called off and couldn't come to the meeting. Rose Jackson was supposed to come but sent 2 staffers. So it was a bit of a waste of time, that area. We had a regional cities board meeting. They asked me to give a half-hour PowerPoint presentation over our lost power last year. And it went very well. I had probably 10 to 15 minutes of questions after it by a lot of the councils who hadn't made sure of their emergency plans and want to go back and they really want to read the report, comes back from government about it, and just see if they're leaving anything out of their own plans, because it's pretty important. I'd also mention our $15 million runway on several occasions, and the chair, Steve Craig, who's from Lismore City Council, moved a motion from regional cities to prepare a paper to the Premier on regional airports, including a letter of support for Broken Hill's upgrade of $15 million. That was seconded by Kevin Mack of Albury and passed unanimously. And that's a pretty big thing for all 16 councils to want to support our council, particularly about our airport. I was chuffed by it, I can tell you. They then met with Kirsten Fishburne from the Department of Housing. Now, Kirsten's the head of staff there and infrastructure, where she advised that planning approvals are being totally reviewed by the government at current, and if councils have any suggested order, please forward them to her. They're proposing that DAs should not be required if you are building an approved building on land which has already been designated under the planning for approval of that purpose. And then just have a construction certificate to be required, which would be a great move and save a lot of the time, which it's ridiculous. Kirsten also is head of staff for Crown Lands, and I brought up about our Crown land in Broken Hill being overshadowed by native title, and she has agreed to come to Broken Hill on about the 7th of May and bring an Aboriginal advisor with her and meet with council to try and find a way forward, which was another very positive for Broken Hill. And that was the end of that meeting. Thank you.
We have a seconder for that. Yeah, councillor Allgate. Just if you could also add to your motion, councillor Hickey, send a, because my understanding is, well, it's not my understanding, I know the Premier, Chris Minns, was very supportive of our runway upgrade. If we could send off a letter to the Premier just asking for a letter of support for our runway and explain what may have happened in your meetings with the relevant people about what may have happened, and also explain that we have got a letter of support from the 16 regional cities of New South Wales in that correspondence as well. I think if we can get a commitment from the Premier that he is supportive of, it will certainly help in the future. Are you happy to second that? Yeah, still. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Reports, item number 1 is the draft waste and sustainability materials strategy 2025 to 35 and sustainability strategy 25 to 30 for public exhibitions. We have a mover for
Move
that.
the recommendation.
Move councillor Allgate, seconded councillor Turley. Councillor Allgate.
I've really got, it's all in the report. The policy is a lengthy report and covers all the council's objectives or goals. My only concern, I think we all want to try and reduce landfill use and recover as much material as we can from that's normally destined to go to landfill. But some of our goals between now and 2030 will undoubtedly increase or involve increased costs. And I'd be reluctant to see costs moved onto the ratepayers for waste. But that's something we'll have to decide at the time. But I think it's an important thing that we should bear in mind. The ratepayers shouldn't have to carry the burden of any changes that we make.
Councillor Turley.
I just wondered if, given some of the new requirements, if there's any benefit in having a pop-up sort of information stall to explain the waste the strategy.
Yeah, there has been workshops with the community, councillor Turley.
But now we've got the drafts, sorry, Mr. Mayor. Now we've got the draft strategy, whether it's good to have that pop up so that we can make sure the community are fully aware of that.
That can be included, councillor Turley. Any other speakers? Look, this is one of those things where governments over in Sydney who are struggling for space bring all these requirements in that ultimately affect regional councils because we're so far from everywhere. It's been made quite clear when we do sort or we recycle our waste, even in this report and some of the background from that report, what you find is we can sort it, but it costs us a lot of money to get it away to where it needs to go to actually be used for recycling. Part of this strategy is to try and stop landfill from it, stops materials from going into landfill in the first place. And some of those is by recycling via second-hand shops. Councillor Chandler, for example, who's been involved in the industry, knows how difficult that can be. the materials that do come out, very difficult to pass on, even in the shops. And it mainly happens because the materials that are being produced are of such a poor quality. When they're going to landfill, they're at the end of their life cycle. Once upon a time, you build a table, it would last for 30 or 40 years. You build a table now, it falls to bits after 30 or 40 weeks. So this is why people aren't buying secondhand materials. What the government needs to do is stop hitting the end user and start hitting it at the beginning of the production line. They're not making materials that last long enough, and they're not making materials that are of any benefit to be sold down the line. So the government keeps on hitting the community, as Councillor Allgate said. The end user keeps on paying the price instead of the people that are producing it. So I agree totally with you, Councillor Allgate. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2 is the town square location of the Women's Mining Memorial. Do we have a mover for that?
Move
Moved
that.
Councillor Hickey, seconded Councillor Allgate. Deputy Mayor?
Just a great decision, and the citizens of Broken Hill have made the decision. I think that's absolutely fantastic because then everybody's happy. Thank you.
I do agree. Councillor Allgate? Look, it's like anything. This is a council that does liaise with the community, and we'll always take on what the community says when it comes to public opinion. The reality is there was a number of positions put out to the community, and they've chosen to put it back in the town square, and good for them. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3 is the minutes of the Broken Hill Lead Reference Group.
Move that way.
Moved Councillor Boland, seconded Councillor Jewett. Councillor Boland?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. This was the first one I attended since I took over from retired and long-term delegate Councillor Brown, and it's a bit of a sleeper group, this one, and committee. It's a lot of useful information, and it's very important for the city and for our children. So the meeting today was very informative, as was the 28th of November, and it was it's good to see the progress, especially around the daycare centres that are around some of the mine sites, and that they're getting really good results and low levels, and hearing about the mediation work happening around mine sites and people's properties. But as I said, very much of a sleeper committee or group, but a very, very important one for the future of this city and for the children as well.
Any other speakers? The lead reference group's a really important one, and what we still have to remember is over 90% of the children in New South Wales that test above the acceptable level for lead are in Broken Hill. So we need to continue to push it, and the state government, no matter who's in, Labor or the coalition, need to understand that we need to be given the exact same opportunities and benefits as every other child and community in New South Wales. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 1 of the Community Development Committee, adoption of the draft Outback Archive Collection Management Policy. Mover? Moved Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Chandler. Councillor Allgate?
I don't need to make much comment on that, Mr. Mayor. It's all provided in the report, lengthy policy, and I'm not sure how active it's been up to date, but at least this particular management policy covers all aspects of future activities.
Yeah. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2 is the Inclusion Action Plan Key Performance Indicators Progress Report for the period ending 31st of December 2024. We have a mover for that.
Move that way.
Councillor Boland, seconded Councillor Jewett. Councillor Boland?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. It's good to see so many things on track. There is a couple off track around some wheelchair access at the Civic Centre, etc. But it's good to see progress being made, and that there's, I don't want to use the word only, but there's 3 off track, but there's 18 achieved, 23 on track. So it's good to see progress being made for the most vulnerable in our community, and looking forward to the next report, having those three off tracks on track or achieved.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Look, I think it's a really good result. You don't want any off track, but the reality is you can't always do everything you'd like to do. What I do like is we have a town square development that has been done to make sure that it is accessible to all. It's an important project that this council did because we believe in disability inclusion. That 3 out of 40 odd aren't on track, but that means the other 38 or so are on track, and that's evident around the town. And I regularly hear, and I thank the manager of community, Razir. I thank you because it really is important. I hear nothing but good words from the people that have noticed how much more accessible the whole city is when they're using mobility devices, or even people that may be on just a walking stick, how much more easier it is to get around the city. So well done. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 3, temporary suspension. So Councillor Boland, this is the...
Sorry, Mayor Kennedy, this one's fine because it's not directly involved
Righto.
with the
Right.
the event.
Okay. Temporary suspension of the alcohol prohibited area, Perfect Live Film Festival. We have a mover for that. Moved Deputy Mayor Hickey, seconded Councillor Jewett. Deputy Mayor Hickey?
Pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, pretty easy. I think it's something that is really good to do. Any other comments, Councillor Holgate?
Could I just ask, it's not clearly stated in the recommendation, how much funding are we going to
This
provide?
is just for the alcohol. We're just
Oh, just
exempting the alcohol.
Okay, not the event.
No. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Finance and Governance Committee, item number 1, council attendance at the... Oh, sorry, Councillor Turley. Cool down a little. Council attendance at the Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly held in Canberra from the 24th to 27th. Councillor Boland?
I'll move recommendation, the recommendations as written, but item 3, that council does not send any delegates. And add an item 4 that was added at the committee meeting, the steering committee meeting, that correspondence be sent to the Australian Local Government Association seeking
That's
clarification.
at number 4.
That is already at number 4?
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies.
Yeah.
I was reading the recommendations from the committee. So,
Yeah.
move items 1, 2 and 4, and item 3 being that council does not send any delegates to the conference, the assembly.
So just so we all understand, this is sending delegates over the conference. That doesn't mean that the council can't send people during that period, and it would be at a different meeting to this one because they also meet with the mine-related councils, regional capitals, etc. So there could be an opportunity for a delegation to go to Canberra. What you're saying is that you determine not to register for the conference during that period because we are not voting delegates.
Yes, and that's correct. And we've seen through the Deputy Mayor's delegates report on how important those other meetings are. And I think that's a lot more value for ratepayers' money than sending councillors to an assembly where we have no voting rights.
Second that.
Second that, Councillor Holgate?
Yeah.
Any speakers on that? Councillor Boland, speak to that.
Just as already noted down in my recommendations.
Yeah, so at number 4, the correspondence be sent to the Australian Local Government Association seeking clarification on the difference between ALG board members and conference attendees of non-voting councils due to being a member of the State Local Government Association, and how an individual councillor, a non-voting councillor, Councillor Turley, can be a member of the ALGA board and vote on the board matters, but councillors cannot vote at a conference. I'm a little bit, so I'm glad that's in there because for me, it seems very strange that all the councillors in this room are equal, as we are all non-members of LG New South Wales. But Councillor Turley is actually at a higher level as an ALGA board member and votes on resolutions that come out of the conference itself. What they're telling us is that we cannot vote or put motions to the conference, yet we have a councillor that determines at a board level whether those motions are accepted by the conference. So I do agree with you completely when that is put there. For me, one has to be right and one has to be wrong. Either Councillor Turley can't be on the board or we should be able to vote as delegates at that conference. So I do agree with you, Councillor Boland. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Someone might be. Thank you, Councillor Turley. So as passed as written, except at number 3, council determined that we won't send delegates as we're not voting opportunity to vote during that conference. Item number 2, delivery of program key performance indicators progress report for the period ending 31 December 24, inclusive the operational plan and outcomes. We have a mover for that.
Move the recommendation.
Moved, Councillor Allgate, seconded. Councillor Chandler, Councillor Allgate.
Only to say that it's an important document and it maps out how we're going in the short term, the 1 year and out to 2026. It seems as if we're well placed to meet all of our current expectations, so there's no reason to cause concern.
Any other speakers? Look, the council is doing an outstanding job delivering the operational plan and the program, delivery program. It has met all its requirements and we have been at sometimes under budget. So well done to all involved. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The quarterly budget review statement for the period ended 31 December 2024. Councillor Boland, seconded.
Seconded.
Councillor Allgate, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Very good report and it's great to have a look through that and the results around the budget and some movements within the budget to fix up or replace some plant and equipment, which is great. Some bitumen kettles and for the road crews and some air conditioning units as well. The movements in the budget, so it's good to see things ticking along, and you only have to look around town to see the projects that are coming online, and also note in the budget the installation of an accessible water fountain at Queen Elizabeth Park. Another one. I mean, go back to that disability inclusion action plan. So it's good to see the results in that budget, and it's a very good report, and the staff must be congratulated on it.
Thank you, Councillor Boland. Councillor Hickey.
Yes, Mayor, can you just item 4 where council notes the 2024-25 projected net capital budget expenditure of 36 million, which is fantastic for Broken Hill. I think it's just proving that all councillors are doing a good job.
Any other speakers? I don't think you need to look very far to see the library, the netball, planned works at the airport, tennis courts, and the list goes on. So it really is making a difference. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Investment report for January 2025.
Move that way.
Councillor Boland, seconded. Councillor
Seconded.
Allgate, Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Again, another great report, good report, and it's good to see that the money's in term deposits and also the New South Wales Tea Court Meeting Growth Fund. It's well balanced, well looked after. And obviously of note, the interest rates come down last week, I believe, and the inflation data returned today that was a little bit higher. So maybe a little bit longer until we see another interest rate decrease, which is bad for homeowners and mortgage owners, but it keeps that money safely in some AAA ranked bank deposits, which is great.
Thank you, councillor Boland. Any other speakers? Councillor Allgate?
I just wish I could get the same return that the council's getting.
Manager of Finance, can you give a bit of advice? All those in favour, carried unanimously. Nominations for the appointment of community representatives to the Section 355 committees. Do we have a mover for that? Moved councillor Jewett, seconded councillor Hickey. Councillor Jewett.
Just that, yeah, welcome to the committee. It's always good to see you get local representatives in these committees, and
Yeah, look, it's really good that there are people going for this. What councillors will realise in the very short term is councillor Dave Gallagher is on a lot of these committees, and councillors will have to step up and take over. Councillor Gallagher was an exceptionally hard-working councillor that was the sole councillor on a few of these committees, and at some stage, not sure when, next month we will look at honouring Dave by making sure that we do have people that stand up and take over some of the areas where he was passionate about. That's tidy towns, the work he did at the cemetery, outstanding. A lot of that can be attributed to Dave himself, but also the other members on that committee. Memorial Oval, really, really important. Lamb Oval. So the list goes on. So he's going to be a loss to this council and a loss to the community. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Further reports, item number 1, quarantine of funds for Cobalt Blue Holdings Limited, transition to critical minerals batteries recycling project. We have a mover for that.
Move that way.
Move councillor Boland, seconded
Seconded.
councillor Allgate. Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. This is quite an amazing project. I was in the briefing a couple of days ago, and with the crew and what they're looking at doing out there, it's just not a New South Wales first. It's not just an Australian first. It's this hemisphere first with what they're looking at doing out there. And I really hope they get the support they need, and council will obviously keep advocating for it. But it'll put Broken Hill on the map of battery recycling and things like that as we enter into the new era of EVs, etc. The batteries have to go somewhere, and burning them in China is probably not the best idea. It's better to recycle them.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Look, some councillors weren't at the presentation, so I'll just give a brief rundown. So what happens is when the lithium batteries are recycled, the plastic's removed. The black mass, which is some small amounts of plastic, but it's mainly the chemical composition, the heavy metals that are in the battery itself. They have a process there that can extract the cobalt, the lithium, the nickel, the copper, etc. Through their process, is created at about 30% less than, or a 30% margin on it. So they're able to produce that mineral with a 30% profit. So they will always be able to make money out of it. What happens currently is it goes over to China. So the black mass goes over to China as more batteries are produced in Australia, and there is more need for this. A lot of it will be stored rather than recycled. This is an opportunity for the state government in particular to get on board early. Not only will it save the state money. It'll make money for the state via an employment. It'll keep up to 15 people employed in Broken Hill, and we will be, or we in New South Wales and Broken Hill will become a leader in recycling lithium batteries. This is an opportunity that's too good to be missed. I think if Councillor Boland would agree, I think we need to write off and explain again the benefits of the black mass and how they are able to extract that metal, and regardless of the costs of the material themselves, they will always have a 30% margin. So as the product goes up in price, their margin remains 30%. So they're always able to make money. But as cobalt is more expensive, or lithium's more expensive, or nickel's more expensive, they make more money. That's an opportunity that's just too good to miss. If we were a council that was still receiving resources to regions, I believe as a council, we would consider being part of that financially ourselves. So if we have a small council in Broken Hill that's interested in would be interested if we had money to finance that proposal, because it is so good, not just for Broken Hill, the state and Australia. I believe that the New South Wales government and the federal government need to get on board. Happy to accept that.
Absolutely, yes.
Seconder,
Actually,
happy to
number 4.
accept that. Seconder, yep. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 2, Regional Express Airlines. We have a mover for that.
Move that way.
Move Councillor Allgate, seconded. Seconded Councillor Jewett. Councillor Allgate.
Only to say that we are fortunate that the federal government has accepted or provided $80 million in terms of loan finance to the administrators of Rex. At least they understand the importance of regional airlines, and people in the rural areas rely so heavily on airlines for quick transport to the distant cities. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen if Rex doesn't find a buyer. That'll be probably a new situation altogether. But at least in the interim, Rex will keep going, albeit I understand it's reduced some of its flights. But we're in a situation where at least the Rex Airlines are still operating, and we have access to flights to all of the cities, and let's hope we keep them in the long term.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Allgate. The federal government has said that they will actually purchase Rex Airlines if there's not a buyer. I don't know if you'd be interested in moving or adding to your motion that we do write to the Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition saying that we do support the federal government if they can't find a buyer buying that. I think for regional Australia, Rex Airlines is too important, and in a lot of ways, those government corporations used to do a better job than some of the private. If we look at the Commonwealth Bank and we look at a number of other, or Qantas and a number of other organisations before they were privatised, telecom, governments, if they're done right and ran as a business, can do better than private, because it's not all about making profits. So if you'd like to just add that, Councillor Allgate.
Happy.
Happy. Seconder, happy. Any other speakers? Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Absolutely agree with that. It's been disappointing to see some of the comments come out of the capital cities around Rex, and it's a waste of money. I don't think supporting regional people is a waste of money, and our air service is very important with what they do, transporting test results or blood samples, etc. And I think the people commenting that it shouldn't be saved are probably the people that have never been off the bitumen in their life, and they need to get out of Sydney at some stage. And I mean, the Queensland government's had partnerships with Rex to fly to some pretty remote areas for decades now. So it's got a model there, and it's something that certainly needs to be saved, and if it's got to be nationalised, it's got to be nationalised. And I'd like to see we've got an federal election coming up, and I'd like to see the federal opposition leader come out and match what Albanese, the Labor leader, Prime Minister Albanese, has said around nationalising Rex if a buyer can't be found.
Thank you. Any other speakers? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Correspondence, Broken Hill Harness Racing Club. Do we have a mover for that?
Move that way.
Move councillor Boland. Second, councillor Jewett. Councillor Boland.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Talking to a few people involved in the Harness Racing Club, and it's a dreadful situation. Obviously, there needs to be some upgrades, but they won't give us the time to do it. They've changed the from 30 horse starters to 40 and just won't send stewards out. And it was a good club, and it was a lot of volunteers did a lot of work out there, and it's disappointing to see it. See that Sydney again, a very Sydney-centric organisation, stopping such a great pastime out here in Broken Hill. It's really disappointing, and it's really upsetting for the volunteers that have donated, the volunteers so much time to keep that club going and have something for the Far West community to do. It must be, if you're anywhere past the Penrith trotting track, they don't seem to care about.
Any other speakers? Look, chances are hopefully they'll have a St. Pat's meet. They're trying to get enough horses to do that. They'd like 7 races, but they'll settle for 6. So Harness Racing New South Wales has been a little bit hard on our local trotting group, and it will be a loss to the community if we can't make sure that continues in some form into the future. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Food organics and garden organics legislation. We have a mover for that.
Move that way.
Move councillor Jewett,
Seconded.
seconded councillor Allgate, councillor Jewett.
Don't have anything to say. I think I've actually missed that one during reading, so I don't.
Yeah. Look, so our green waste bins have been good. We've been very successful with our green waste bins. We're well ahead of the legislation. What could be concerning for the legislation is if we do go to a weekly pickup, it'll mean we'll need an extra truck as well as an extra person, which will cost the community upwards of $100,000 per year, in addition to what we're already paying. Most people here know exactly how the green waste works. We've been doing it for many, many years, probably since about 2004 or 5 with our green waste bins. So we know that once a fortnight is enough for the vast majority of people. So we should be able to come up with a plan here in Broken Hill that suits Broken Hill without costing additional money, considering we've been doing green waste well for a long time, well before a lot of these other councils have even thought about it. Having said that, if the mover doesn't mind, if we do write back and just explain how well we've been doing with green waste in Broken Hill, and we should be able to do a plan that meets the legislative requirements without needing a weekly pickup.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. So is this just a proposal at this stage, or it's?
No, it's going to happen. So we need to make sure that does happen. Councillor Boland?
Thank you,
You
Mayor
happy to
Kennedy.
second that? Oh, who was the second?
Councillor
Allgate.
Allgate
You happy to
seconded that
second
one.
that? Councillor Boland?
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. It's concerning for me, particularly for larger organisations and businesses such as supermarkets, hospitality, cafes, etc., that there could be a lot of costs put onto local businesses at the worst possible time. If supermarkets and larger hospitality businesses have to get another dumpster to separate the green waste just into another dumpster bin, it's going to be massive amounts of money for these businesses that they just can't afford. And ultimately, the larger supermarkets, they'll just pass it straight on to the, again, end user, which is us, the ratepayers. So it's quite concerning. Again, as you mentioned, it's a lot of the issues coming out of Sydney with wastage space, and we've been doing it for many decades, 20 plus years out here. But the extra costs for the ratepayers and local businesses that will ultimately be passed on to the ratepayers is quite concerning to me.
Any other speakers? Councillor Chandler?
Yeah, a lot of these regulations done on the coast. These places have got up to 5, 6 times the rainfall we've got. So we're not getting as much of our lawns and gardens and all that. They can set a limit for how they're going to do it, but we just don't have the rainfall. We don't grow. Our gardens don't grow like they do on the coast. All that green waste.
We'll definitely put something to them, so they do understand that we do a good job with our green waste anyway, and we've been doing it for many years because the community's been committed to it. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 5 is the item that Councillor Boland declared an interest. Additional funding for the Perfect Light Film Festival, 22nd of March, 2025. We have a mover for that.
I'll
Councillor Jewett.
move the recommendation that I would, at point 2, change that to, we stick to the original funding agreed on of the 40,000 and no further funding.
We have a seconder for that.
Sorry,
You'd like to speak against that, Councillor Allgate, or?
I'd really like to speak against it, in the sense that in item 2, I would, suggest that we meet our commitment with the provision of $40,000 worth of sponsorship. And we donate the use of, the Civic Centre, but we don't pay any additional funds.
So I'll just explain before we continue. If council does not contribute it, it is over. There's not, no, but it's over both ways. So they need the commitment of either 10,000 or 15,000, or the project doesn't continue.
I think the fact that we give them $40,000 and the Civic Centre free of charge is a fairly lucrative offer, particularly when all the other sponsors are backing out.
Okay. Councillor, you speak against that? or
Yeah,
for that?
I'll speak for that. That,
Yeah.
I think that they're just that maybe this year might have to be forfeited and they might have to do a bit more work to get sponsors, and try and get it, to do it themselves, because I think council is putting in 40 grand and it's a fair bit of money. I don't like to see anything cancelled. I hate seeing any sort of an entertainment thing stopped, but you can't, why are the others pulling out? Why are the sponsors pulling out? There must be reasons. Whether they're just monetary or whether they're not happy with what's happening. But I think maybe this time of year, it's due in a month's time or less than a month, 22 days.
At the,
I think that's, that's my opinion.
We have any other speakers, Councillor Turley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my concern, and look, I absolutely understand the financial position that has been moved by Councillor Jewett and Chandler. But my concern is that we really, are part of this creative arts scene that puts us in the spotlight with festivals like this. We don't have a lot of festivals at the moment. And I just wondered, and I missed the presentation the other night, but I just wondered, was there any opportunity of them being able to host this event, and with the current sponsorship that we have in place? I just don't want to vote to, against, I don't want to support this motion if there's an opportunity that we could look at funding to keep this festival going.
I can speak to the, just that, we did explore a few options, especially with Transgrid, with the money that they're offering. We did send them that way. Also brought up the idea of maybe postponing for a couple of months to gain that extra funding, a little bit more time, which September was no good because it runs into other festivals, but even a month or two. So we really did sort of explore as many options as we could when we met with them. So I was hoping that would come through.
My only comment, Mr Mayor, is that it's ratepayers' money. We're just giving ratepayers' money away to what appears to be, not through any fault of our own at this stage, failing because of lack of support.
Look, for me, it's been a good festival. It promotes local filmmakers. Film is something that as a community, we're very invested in. The $10,000 for the Civic Centre, 6,500 would come back to council in fees, so it'd be actually only additional $3,500. What people also need to understand is that some of the sponsors pulled out at late notice, one being Cobalt Blue, who not because they didn't love the film festival itself, is because they're in financial difficulties. AGL, who was the other sponsor, doesn't have the link to Broken Hill that it once had. And the new, what's the new group called? Oh, Tilt Energy. At some stage, they may come on board, but at this stage, Tilt Energy is not on board. So they've come to the council to keep it going. As we've said in the past, we want to reduce our commitment of 40,000 down, and they've given a commitment to grow beyond that 40,000. For me, I'd hate to see not give them an opportunity for the sake of $3,500 additional money on top of what they are getting. So if councillors did plan to, for the 10,000 for the Civic Centre, 6,500 would come back. So they're about 3,500. So that extra 3,500 would be used for setting up the Civic Centre and doing the things that they would. Councillor Turley?
Sorry, Mr Mayor, is it possible to contact Minister Graham's office as a matter of urgency to see, as he is the Minister for the Nighttime Economy, to see if he has any funding, discretionary funding that could be used to assist this?
So would the mover be happy enough to amend their motion to accept the $10,000 Civic Centre plan, which will 6,500 will come back, and will write off to the minister that Councillor Turley suggested, and try and cover the costs to get that money. If we don't, then we will be out of pocket, but it will guarantee that the film festival is able to continue with the hope of getting new partners next year, which could be Tilt Energy, or it could be Horsens, or it could be Hydrastore has given some interest, but they haven't started yet. So there's lots of organisations that could be interested in the future, but not at this stage. Councillor Turley?
Sorry, it was just pointed out to me, and I mean, we used to have the event in Sturt Park, and then it got moved to the Civic Centre. And I know that our first ever event for the Perfect Light Film Festival in Sturt Park, I think it was in November, and it was bitterly cold.
Yeah.
I think I had 2 jackets on. It was ridiculous. Weather is always an issue, but that could be another process of reducing cost and being able to move some funding into the cash support of looking at the venue and whether Sturt Park is another place to bring it back.
Well, the
into.
Sturt Park, they're asking, if that's held at the Sturt Park, they're asking for 15,000 because of the works they do there. That includes the screens and the and the councillor. Jewett, are you happy to accept that?
In back to your question, yeah, as you're explaining that with the additional 10,000, I'm happy to move that one, to
Councillor
amend it.
Chandler, are you happy to second that still? Yeah. Councillor Hickey?
Just in support of what Councillor Turley said, that Minister Graham did emphasise that he has got a bucket full of money for this nighttime entertainment, and is handing it out. So I think if we went to him, get this approved, but go to him for support. But most certainly he was very, very, very encouraging about it.
I agree, it's a good idea.
Councillor Turley?
So sorry, Mr Mayor. Perhaps as the letter's been prepared, that the general manager's staff, the general manager may just pick up the phone and contact Minister Graham's chief of staff, as this is in 4 weeks' time, 3 weeks' time.
Yep.
And a letter, by the time it gets through the system, I think picking up the phone might be the one. I know you don't call the favours in, but when you do, it's important that you do it quickly.
If we are, so, or if councillor Jewett doesn't mind, so if we can get the minister and get a commitment, are you happy to go to the Sturt Park? Alternative, we can't get a commitment, we stay with the Civic Centre. Yep, councillor Chandler. Righto. So what we're moving is that we write to the Minister Graham. If we're able to get the 15,000 additional costs, we will have it at the Sturt Park. If we can't, we will still try and get the extra 3,500 for the Civic Centre. But if all fails, we go to the Civic Centre. So everyone understands what we're voting on. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Good outcome. Councillor Boland. So councillor Boland, what was passed was, as written, we'll be writing to Minister Graham to ask for the extra 15,000 to hold the event in the Sturt Park. If we're able to get that, that's well where it'll be held. If it is, other than that, it'll be held at the Civic Centre, where money will be returned because of fees and hire. So it'll end up be additional 3,500. What everyone should be excited about, Hydrostore has committed to fund it in future years. So thank you, everyone. Item number 6 is the minutes of the local traffic committee meeting number held on Thursday, 13th of February, 2025. Councillor Allgate, you move that?
Recommendations.
Seconded. Councillor Chandler. Councillor Allgate, anything of interest?
Nothing in particular as far as I'm concerned. I'm in discussions at the last meeting with Cody. There were a few things that were a little bit hard to identify in terms of a bit of ambiguity in some of the expressions. But as far as I'm concerned, everything is went well, and the committee's working in the right direction, and all the individual aspects of it are taught, are recorded in the.
Yeah, ask Councillor Hickey.
Yeah, just item 4 with that Chloride Street angle parking. I've been approached dozens of times so far about it. Just for Mr. Howard's information, just for that March meeting, that a lot of people and I lived on the corner, so I know exactly that. And there's been so many close accidents because people can't see past those first cars. They've got a big 4-wheel drive that you just can't see, and you're in the middle of the road before you realise. And I've seen half a dozen, but after Dave's funeral the other day, there was numerous people came up to the Civic Centre and whinged about it. Just for your info. Okay, thank you.
I just mentioned that was mentioned at the meeting, and I'm not sure of the title, but Cody is sympathetic to what's happening because I've received 5 or 6 complaints as well, and I know others that are receiving them like you are.
Yeah. So just for everyone's information, council will review it. Once all the work's done, it can go back to parallel parking. I don't think they'd want it completely back to parallel parking. What I've heard is most people are fine with the angle parking, just a couple of parallel parking at the end so that you haven't got the big 4-wheel drives. So when you do your review, if you could just take into account that it may not have to that may not be the best option to go back fully parallel. Most people that I'm speaking to, and I'm sure it's Councillor Allgate and Deputy Mayor Hickey as well, it's only the last, if you had a couple of parallel parks at the intersections and where you're turning out, the hospital would address the issues. So you'd still be able to keep the vast majority of that angle parking, because it has been good to have those extra. I know a lot of people have been impressed with the extra parking. It's just the visibility, particularly when you have those big four-wheel drives in the last couple of angle parks. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 7, the action list. We have a mover for that. No one wants to take over
Move that
role?
way.
Councillor Boland, Councillor Jewett, Councillor Boland.
Big, massive shoes to fill. Bit of yellow there, but there's some good green.
All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I will just do the questions. Item number 16, questions taken at the December 24 January council meetings. Do we have a mover for that? Move Councillor Turley. Move seconded Councillor Jewett. Councillor Turley.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank the General Manager and the
Yep.
staff for the lounges at the airport being replaced. Very quick job, and I was very pleased with the outcome.
Very good, Councillor Turley. Very good, quick action. Thank you, General Manager. Any other speakers on those items? No. Item number 2 is the public forum questions on notice from the January council meeting. We have a mover for those.
Move that way.
Move Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Chandler. Councillor Allgate.
Move.
No, all good. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. We have a motion from Councillor Deputy Mayor Hickey. Do we have a mover to have it accepted as an urgent matter?
Move that way.
Move Councillor Allgate, seconded Councillor Turley. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Councillor Hickey.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Kennedy. This only came to light last Thursday, so it is an urgent matter. The motion, which was given number 25, dated February 26, 25, be received. The council write to the Premier, the Honourable Chris Minns, MP, Minister for TAFE, Steve Wan, MP, the Minister for Education, Prue Carr, MP, their counterpart shadow ministers, and the Member for Barwon, Mr Roy Butler, MP, requesting that the decision to decommission and remove 12 lathes and 4 milling machines from the Broken Hill TAFE annex be reversed immediately, and that the machines be reconnected and recommissioned. And that the correspondence also requested TAFE New South Wales do a thorough investigation into the Broken Hill TAFE annex, including staffing and promotion of courses and the running of training programs. The TAFE New South Wales look at employing more full-time teachers at Broken Hill and look at running block training for students from all areas of the state, especially the Far West, and the Broken Hill TAFE to the Broken Hill TAFE. The TAFE New South Wales changed their policy of minimum 12 to 15 per class for regional and remote campuses of the state, as they should be regarded as an education facility, not a monetary profitable business, but profitable in their investment in training New South Wales employees to ensure everybody has the same access to training.
We have a seconder for that. Councillor Turley.
I will speak on that fairly lengthy.
Sorry, before you speak on it, through you, Mr. Mayor, is it possible to include, given that Steve Wan will be in Broken Hill on the 11th of March, that council request an urgent meeting with the minister to discuss this issue?
You happy to add
I'm
that?
happy to add that. Certainly, yeah.
Yep, no worries.
Sort of. Yeah, look, I was in Parliament House, luckily last Thursday, when I got a phone call to advise that there was no correspondence or discussion with the local industry, that overnight 12 lathes and 4 milling machines had been decommissioned and packed ready for removal and sent to alternate TAFEs. It's understood that Tamworth is the main destination due to their class size and available equipment. This is a real slur on Broken Hill and a dismantling of the Broken Hill TAFE annex, and cannot be allowed to eventuate. I sent a message to our General Manager, Jane, and Roy Butler's office to request that all action cease until the first full circumstance were investigated, as if the machines were removed, we would never get them back. It is understood a ministerial briefing was requested from the minister. We will await his advice. TAFE has been an integral part of Broken Hill since before World War II and has seen many hundreds of apprentices walk the corridors, with Broken Hill producing top tradespeople in all spheres throughout Australia and in fact worldwide. With Broken Hill going into a period of growth with Hydrostore, the sale of the proposed and opening of the Pinnacles mine, and in conjunction with the Ras mine, is a rebirth of Broken Hill. And again, it's a huge opportunity to rebuild TAFE to the great supplier of education and training that it previously was. TAFE cannot be viewed as a profitable business, but rather as an investment by the state in education and training and fully trained apprentices for the future of New South Wales. These trained people will return millions of dollars over their working life, and the federal government's Made in Australia bill cannot succeed without us training personnel to make the goods to be made in Australia. I believe that more teachers at Broken Hill and sending students from other areas to do these blocks in Broken Hill instead of our students having to go away would be a very positive effect on our workforce. Current TAFE has a minimum of 12 to 15 students every class, and is not realistic for rural and remote TAFEs. As I said, TAFE is not a money-making exercise, but a training for all students, and all students should be afforded the same privilege and opportunity. It doesn't matter if there's 6 in a class or 4 in a class. As we say, it's not a money-making thing, it's opportunities for students. Profit will come when those students are trained and become tax-paying Australians. Furthermore, with the AUKUS Forum, visited last year as a potential training transport corridor for Broken Hill and manufacturing centre, they did make the comment that Broken Hill TAFE would play a significant role in enabling the outcome of a major construction centre for the AUKUS deal. And they spoke to numerous engineers in town and engineering companies, and unfortunately, one of their senior people lost his son and he couldn't continue on. But that, and then the change of government or the proposed change of government in America, they weren't sure. But I'm pretty sure they're going to look at continuing that deal, and then they'll come back out and talk to us. And it could mean hundreds of jobs for Broken Hill. TAFE has now arranged, after our consultation last week, TAFE has now arranged for a meeting in Broken Hill on the 4th of March and have invited 40 people from the industry, Broken Hill City Council, Water Board, etc., to discuss this matter. However, I believe it is far bigger than this and needs to be directed to the Premier and appropriate ministers to ensure the correct decisions are made, as once lost, they will never be returned to Broken Hill. And as Broken Hill's on the climb, we need them. Thank you.
Do we have any other speakers on that? Councillor Turley and Councillor Jewett.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just to say, I absolutely support this motion. I think we're all shocked when we heard rumours around Broken Hill, what has happened, and very pleased that Mr. Warne and others had stepped in to stop this and put it on hold and to host the industry meeting. I'm curious about how TAFE had not consulted with the Mayor and how had not consulted with council or with industry in the decision-making process. So that absolutely disappoints me. And maybe this is part of your education group, Mr. Mayor, that TAFE, I think they're already sit at that table, don't they? If they don't, that we include them on regular briefings or regular workshops.
They do contact council regularly.
Yeah, and so, yeah, so if they hadn't contacted you about this, it's such a shock to see that, especially seeing that they were targeting Tamworth to move some of the equipment to. So absolutely support this motion. I think that requesting that Minister Warne meet with the Mayor and Council is critical in going forward to make sure that we don't miss an opportunity to sit in front of him to explain our concerns.
Thank you, Councillor Turley. Councillor Jewett and then Councillor Holgate.
Yeah, but I just wanted to agree again with everything that Deputy Mayor Hickey has said, but I also want to thank Deputy Mayor Hickey for being in the right place, the right time, and acting so quickly to get this at least paused and just acting so quickly and what you've done. I think Broken Hill will thank you as well.
Councillor Holgate.
Oh, thanks, Mayor Kennedy. But just, this is reminiscent of what happened with plant mechanics. For the last 40 years, for about the last 40 years, apprentice plant mechanics on the mines, they had to go away to Goulburn for block release courses over a week or week and a half, several times a year. It seems that the education or the TAFE industry is promoting certain centres that they want to use as the teaching centres at the expense of regional areas. And I mean, to not be able to provide tutoring for fitters and machiners is just ridiculous. The miners, the mines before relied on fitters, machiners, plant mechanics, electricians and boiler makers, and they were all taught here locally for a short, fitters forever, but this is the death knell. It sounds the death knell now. I just don't understand it. It's very little thought's gone into it from the point of view of the importance of regional training.
Look, without a doubt, we have both the state and federal government talking about decentralisation, trying to get people away from the coast as they remove the resources required to get people out here, stay out here and work. Former Shadow Minister Mick Veitch made it quite clear one of the worst decisions made 25 odd years ago was what happened with technical colleges all over New South Wales. We're still paying the price for poor decisions from both sides of government, and he made it quite clear it's poor decisions from both sides of government that will take decades to repair. We need the state government to acknowledge that the TAFE system needs to be repaired, and it needs to start with making sure that they build on it. As Deputy Mayor Hickey said, it might start off with only 4 or 5 people, but at some stage you'll be back up to 12, 15. We have new mines. We had Horsens mines. We have Hydrostore. We have Cobalt Blue. We have uranium mines. We have gold mines. We have a lot of resources in this area that at some stage they'll need it. But if we've lost it, we'll never get it back. Or to be brought back so slowly, we won't grow to the full effect of what we can. So we need to make sure that we pass on to Steve, the Minister Steve Wan, when he does come here, just how important that is. Councillor Turley.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I think Minister Wan's coming on the 11th, not the 4th. I think the industry meeting was the 4th.
Right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
just for the minutes, yeah.
No worries. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item number 17, questions for the next meeting arising from items on the agenda. Do any councillors have any questions for the next meeting? No. Item number 18 is the public forum session. The second public forum session of 15 minutes will consider submissions from the public regarding matters that were considered by council at this meeting only. Do we have any members from the public? Ros? Yep. Just say your name for the tape. Thanks.
Is it on already?
It
Yes.
is.
My name's Ros O'Connell. I'm speaking on behalf of my client, if you like to call them, as regards a traffic committee thing that happened. Now, her name is Sian Thompson. She's from Hare and Flow at 31 Oxide Street. Her shop is around from the ANZ Bank. And she put in a letter in November asking if the council would remove the taxi stands there because of a lack of parking for her clients. Remembering it's a hairdressing, so you really need at least 1 hour, 2 hours for ladies to go in and do your hair. Mayor, you probably don't have to worry about that gentleman up there. And fella on the right, he might need to go to the hairdresser by the look of him. Just passing comment. Now, the first meeting was held in November, and I think Councillor Allgate went to that one, and it was passed unanimously by that traffic committee that they would have a look and inspect. So after that, they did have an inspection and came back with unanimous decision that yes, they would agree to that point. Now, following that, there was another meeting a bit later on, and Cody was at that one. He ran that. Thanks, Cody, because Cody got it organised so there were 2 15-minute and 2 2 hours parking there, which was good. It was an improvement on all half hours. We've got to 2 half hours, 2 hours, but then they still got the taxi rank parked there. I realise, of course, the shops next to her have, there are 3 there, shops, and there's a Uber and ride share. Well, that's good. You've got to have them there. So she has written in another request, sent it over to the council today. But then when I went back to talk to them, lo and behold, outside the corner of Gawler Place and Oxide Street, there was work going on. And I made out I was one of you people, sort of said, excuse me, you're parking, it's illegal. Look, the sign there says illegal. And he looked at me. I said, you can get fined. So what, I don't have to pay for this, the owner can pay for this. And he raced off and I said, oh, right, so there is an owner. But before he went in there, I managed to get him to say, how long? He said, oh, in 3 months, there's a building, business operating there. So there'll be a business there on the corner and they will need parking. They will need parking there. And the shop next to him, there's also work going on there. So I'd like to put to the council, if you could rethink that parking so that we could have the 2 half hour, then the 2 hour, get rid of the taxi stand because Sian Thompson has done a survey and she's been doing that for the past 3 months and not a single taxi parks there. She works from 8:30 through to 6, 7. She was going to come tonight, but she's still working. And not in that whole time over Christmas was there a car there. So it's empty space, not used. So how about you have it for parking, especially when we've got these new businesses coming forward and be finished, say, as I said, in the 3 months. So that's what I like to say on that one.
I just respond to that one. The problem with taxi stands, and this is the reality, and I'm sure not alone there, and there's a lot of people, how difficult it is to get cabs in town at any time. And I do speak to the people that drive the taxis, and even with the changes that have already been considered there, they did complain about that, particularly the disabled cab who needs more length because they actually drop the platform at the back to let people out with wheelchairs and other mobility devices. So they saw that straight away and rang me immediately saying that they use that taxi space.
Yes, they don't.
No, I'll just, so no one wants the taxi stands out the front of their businesses or whatever, but the reality is, as a whole community and as a council, we still need to look after the taxis, because the reality is we can't get enough taxis as it is, and we certainly don't want to make it hard for the taxis that are in town. So that another thing is, a lot of people don't like disability parking out the front of their shops as well, because it takes up parking spaces. So as a council, we actually meet with many shop owners from Argent Street that all have difficulties with parking, and that's why, as a council, we don't just make, as this council, we don't make the rules on the run. It goes to the traffic committee that take in all the arguments, and the manager of infrastructure is listening to that, and that letter will go back. But I'm just briefly telling you some of the issues that are faced by the traffic committee when they go through. So they take into account the owner of the businesses, and in there, one of the concerns was, just because you make a 2-hour park out the front of someone's business, it doesn't make that parking spot their parking spot. It's a 2-hour parking spot. There could be someone that's using the photo shop in Argent Street. So there's sort of some of the things that are considered when going through that, if just through the chair, if the manager of infrastructure just gives just a brief outline, not of the issue itself, but some of the processes that the committee goes through when they're discussing it.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Totally agree, like what you're saying and your concerns, Ros, but yeah, when these do come through to the committee is made up of a council representative, a representative from Transport for New South Wales, and a police representative, as well as a councillor observer. When a decision or a request does come through, sometimes it can seem like it takes a while to actually have an outcome, but it is because we try to take into account everyone within that area, or everyone that it is going to affect. So take your notice about the taxis there, but as the mayor has stated, we have been contacted by the taxi company and the need for a taxi space in that area. So when we do look at a decision, we look at the legislative requirements, we look at the community impact, and then we look at trying to make a decision based on those facts. So, but we're happy to take this back. We've got a committee meeting next
Well,
week
can I
and
sort of
discuss
say,
it.
I have also spoken to the taxis because I get taxis a lot. I don't have a car. And Nikki Phillips, who I believe you
Yeah.
contacted,
Yeah.
she's my taxi.
Yeah.
Right. When I contact her, I get her. So I've spoken to her. I know her really well. And she agreed with me that she never parks there. She
Right.
never parks there. She might round in Argent Street, but there, she never parks there. But I can understand about the big van she drives. She needs to have people get on there. But the room at the end where the ride share is could be used there. You've got that area, and as I said, the shops opening there, they will want parking.
Well, I suppose what I'm saying is they'll take it on board, but they'll contact the cab companies and the cab companies will have feedback. So the feedback's not just from one group, is more or less what I'm
Okay.
explaining to you.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Thanks. Okay. And the other thing I'd like to say about the netball, well done to the council for the netball. I mean, I
Want to be
put
the first one to throw a goal? One of the courts?
and I put pictures on and I get 2 likes. You put them on and get 202. Not fair. But
You should
no,
put them on my side.
it's going really well down with the netball. And did you realise that, okay, there's going to be 10 courts, but 2 of them at the end for play area for the kids, which is a really good thing to have at netball. So they're all enclosed there. So you're playing on the 9, can't add up. And the 2 at the end, yes, are for the kids. So that's really good. And there's going to be shelter sheds covering whatever else. Now, I see the press is here, Emily. I hope you'll all get someone preparing to do a big article. And if you need, I'll tell you who to contact, like Mary Petagonana, right, would be one. And I hope you're planning that soon, are you?
Well, you are now.
No, we are now. So we need it, don't we, Mayor? We need a big splash.
It
on
will be
everything.
really good.
And I can give you the names of the other.
So the updated date is the 1st of May. For it to
First
be
of
handed
May,
over.
terrific.
That's all.
1st of May.
Hand
Oh,
over.
that's good. Yes, that'll give that time.
It'll
to
be
get
finished before then, but it'll be handed over.
done. Oh, right, okay. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? No. We move on to confidential matters. Could we have a motion to move into confidential session? Move Deputy Mayor Hickey, seconded Councillor Chandler. All those in favour? Just for everyone, there's only one item, so it shouldn't take I just pass to the general manager who will read out the resolution passed in confidential session.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Item one, tender report number 1/25, tender T24/12, Wolfram Street Road reconstruction from Oxshire Street to Ida Street. Council resolved one, the Broken Hill City Council report tender report number 1/25 dated February 2025 be received. Two, that Broken Hill City Council award tender T24/12 to GTE One Proprietary Limited for the Wolfram Street Road reconstruction from Oxide Street to Ida Street for the amount of $617,083.75, excluding GST. Three, that the general manager be authorised to negotiate with GTE One Proprietary Limited to increase the scope of works to meet the approved funding amount of no more than $965,183. And four, that the general manager and/or mayor be authorised to sign the tender contract and affix the seal of council if required. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy.
Thank you. That brings the council meeting